Welcome back. Um, this is the day 2 of our FOREX and Applying Precognition Retrocausality webinar run by APPI. And I really am happy that we can do this and that you're all here to do the very important feedback session. So let's begin with a 2-slide summary about what I think is kind of the essence of this precognition and retrocausality. Those are two words which are really the same thing, though understanding the emphasis is important. What happened to my mouse? Oh, brother. Interesting. I had a system failure which I just had to reboot on, and so I may be still having some problems here. It looks like this didn't come up, but you've seen that. That's that nice little picture. Okay, now here's the essence. You know, with precognition, in a way you can view that as what you're doing from your remote viewing session, because you're precogging, looking to the future about your feedback session, because that's the tasking. Describe and sketch my feedback photo site. The retrocausality perspective is that when you do your feedback session, as we're about to do, you are in fact causing something to happen at the feedback session. For example, to draw a picture of what you're seeing now and influencing your RV session. In fact, this is a good example of remote influencing, which Lynn Buchanan actually talks a lot about. And this is self-remote influencing, which is beautiful. This is really the essence of what we're doing. And then the judging picture should be in here, but it doesn't look like we're going to get that. And we did that yesterday, and we'll talk more about that. Now, notice here you have the benefit of what you can call hindsight. And often, at least in this quote, hindsight usually looked down upon, and I don't know if that's true, but here they in fact indicate is probably as valuable as foresight, since it does include a few facts. So that was sort of maybe a tongue-in-cheek statement. Here you have all the facts. Here you have the truth. And I actually believe that hindsight, what's going on right here, is where this whole process begins, because it's from the truth that you go back and can share the information with the remote viewing session. Let me give you, so conscious moments, you know, these are the truth. In our lives, what we really have that we know the most and is most fundamental to us are conscious moments, our conscious now moments. Those are the true moments. So what you're able to do is share these true conscious moments that happen in what we call the future with the conscious moments that you're having during your remote viewing session. It's that entanglement that is really key, and paying attention to all of these conscious moments is what we do here. Here you're reporting them as you're getting them from here, and here you're sharing them. Now I want to give you something which I haven't talked too much about, but I believe is very important, and that's emotions. Here is again a quote I found. I like when other people sort of say something that I resonate with, and so I share them with you. This was a quote where on emotions, and it says emotions carry a readiness to act towards something, a behavioral intent. And I believe it like opens up the communication channel. It's part of the communication channel. Your intention here is to share information with the remote viewing sessions. And that's what we're going to be doing. And that should be like your mindset in your feedback session. And have happy, positive emotions. Even if you get a miss, even if you do a terrible session, you're doing something here which is pretty amazing. And you should be happy with that. And you should have an attitude which says, I'm just going to get better and better at this and feel good about it as part of your session. Because I think the emotions are a carrier. One of the guys who was an early believer in this, when they got hits, they would shout and jump up and down. You know, it's hard to get that excited when you get a miss, but nevertheless, you should try to get into a positive um, mindset. Does that make sense? And make sure your behavioral intent is to keep doing this and get better and better at it. And even though you might not have shared well this time, if you got a miss, you know you're learning and going to do better in the future. Okay, slide 2. This is my model of how all of this works, and it connects all of this up through your subconscious mind. Your submerged consciousness is the way I talk about it, but some people think of it as the higher consciousness, the matrix. They're different words, but we really are all discussing this rather amazing thing, entity, which contains everything that consciousness ever touches, all that is. And the sub is your connection with that. And that makes a handshake. And there was actually a physicist who talked in that kind of language, a handshake through time with your remote viewing session. So that's another way of looking at what I'm just saying, but you can go one step deeper where, okay, so this is the entanglement energy. This is something which is almost outside of time. You know, you're not really sending energy backwards in time. You're entangling it in really what's a quantum mechanical sense. I'm not going to get into physics now, but quantum mechanics has this thing called non-locality, where they're instantaneous connections. That's really what you're doing here. And you're doing this through, and this is the deepest that I believe all of this goes, into this place which I call the universe of collective consciousness. Everything that consciousness touches, the matrix where everything exists, all that is, whatever word you want to use, this is where all the information resides. It is the most fundamental aspect of, frankly, I think not only our physical world, but this is in the non-physical world. This is the world of concepts, of ideas, of the raw consciousness. So that really summarizes everything and adds a little more to what we did yesterday. And I hope you kind of get a sense of this and can let it sink in, because all of it is connected to doing the best possible feedback and learning that we can do. Now, yesterday, we made a prediction. We made it based on a chart, which I have to apologize that everything didn't get into the chat box because I didn't have Julie become an organizer early enough. And so we missed some symbols. This one I got in an email for someone afterwards, Sheila. But even here, with at least all the information we had, it was clear that photo site A was the dominant side. And that was what we predicted, and that was associated with yes and up. But I want to just say a few more words about these confidence rankings, because this gets to the essence of judging. The confidence ranking of 4 is very good. 3.5 is on the margin. So Ron here said, yep, was willing to bet a few bucks. The 5s and 5.5s, when you go back now and judge, I'm sorry, and do your feedback, one of the first aspects of the feedback is you now know the truth, and since we're doing self-judging here, you can look and see, I wonder if I really judged that properly. And so one of the things you gain from your feedback sessions is improvements in your judging, because you now get to see the truth, and it does put a different perspective on it. It's amazing how often myself, when I got into this, and virtually everyone else tells me, oh, look, I missed that, or I missed that. So you will be learning something about your judging. The other thing I want to say, which was very good here, frankly, is you see this separation between the confidence rankings in all the cases, and you should judge. Now, I don't know if we didn't get it or you didn't judge it, but there should be numbers for both. These separations are very encouraging. As when you wear your wagering hat, you love to see large separations as opposed to like a 4 and a 3. When we looked at the data quite a bit back, what we found was if all we did was wager when these were 2 or more apart, we had a much higher hit rate overall. In fact, it was up at almost 80%. So that does make a difference. And there are a lot of reasons, the 2 pictures might not be good. You might have not good sessions. We can give reasons, quote, or excuses, but that just happens to be one of the things we have learned. We love to see these things being separate. And that alone is not a guarantee, but you've got a higher chance of getting a hit, in fact, if that's true. Now, so as I indicated, this made sense to go with photo site A, which was yes, which was up. Now let's see what happened. The prediction was up. I received in an email that we sold at 0.7650. The outcome was actually down. And let's look at that before we go on, because a big part of what now happens, because a fair number of you got misses now since I went in the direction with the majority, how our attitude towards all this goes. In fact, I'm going to give you a heads up. The attitude has got to become positive, because we played the game. Probably the most mysterious, interesting, personally deepening game in town. I mean, think about it. This is amazing. We're talking about precognition. We're talking about gathering information from the future, being connected to all that is. It's kind of amazing stuff. And there's always stuff to learn. And as long as we're committed to this, as we really should be for, the medium to long term, I'm frankly committed to this forever. I can't see anything that would ever, the details may certainly change, may not even be using the computer, but being involved in this consciousness precognition, quote, game is something which I see myself doing virtually forever. So now is the time to learn something, okay, with the feedback session. Now, let's review the trade, and interestingly enough, what happened. we got in yesterday. You see down here, there's timing, and we got in at 11, at 10:45, right around here, and we got in at 0.7670, and we went for 20 pips in the up direction, and these are the 15-minute, I happen to show here just because it was convenient, 15-minute candles. So you remember what the candles are. The high, for example, on this candle is there, the low is there. Green means it was an up move from the opening to the close of this 15-minute section. So it opened here during this 15-minute section and closed there. Now, very interestingly, and this is part of doing financials, it actually touched it actually touched our what is that? Wait, this should be up at 90. Oh, so it looks like it didn't touch it. Okay. Okay, so it came very, very close, but did not touch the 90. Turns out yesterday I saw something that led me to believe it touched it, but our limit order, remember we put a limit order here, didn't go off. Even if it were to touch it, there's no guarantee that it would go off, because you've seen there might be 30 or 40 people there, and if we didn't get there first, the way the computer system works is if there are only 1 or 2 people that want to buy at 0.790, they take them in order, so they would only be able to sell 2 as opposed to the whole amount. So to be guaranteed to get this, you have to either be there very early or go 1 pip up. Now, so we came close here, which doesn't mean anything. That's like in a sports event when one team is ahead of another. This is almost like a tug of war. You know, we almost got there, but we didn't. We had this kind of behavior during the day, and then pop, we went below where our stop was, and so that's when we got out. So it looks like we got out around 7:15 this morning. In fact, when I got up this morning, I was very surprised to see that it had not, in fact, gone off, because as I showed you, variations of 20 pips over a long period of time like we've done is rare. But nevertheless, that's what happened. And we did, in fact, get it, but in the wrong direction. Okay, so that was the action. That was the game, equivalent of a sporting game, but with the price movements. So, yep, here it is. So it's 7:20 in the morning. I got this from Interactive Brokers. They do things in Eastern time, obviously, but we got out at 0.7650, so that was 20 pips down. Now, we did what I would consider, I guess let me show you one other thing before we get into this, and that is, I felt yesterday I might have rushed through the way this platform works, but you're likely to use a different platform. I mean, I do recommend Interactive Brokers. However, they have like a $10,000 minimum. And there are other people out there like FOREX.com, and there's one called FXCM, I think, that I know. Yeah, FXCM, that Igor, another person in our app, is using. But nevertheless, this platform contains all the information. What it shows here is what's called the realized profit and loss. And so I lost $205 on this, which my account here, and this is typical of the way I wager personally. I'm at the level where I wager in the $100 to $200 range. Everybody is different, and you saw the wager wisely. Everybody has to really deeply get down into what feels comfortable, and what feels comfortable not only for one wager, because that's like 10% of what your bankroll is. What is a reasonable bankroll for you? The other Forex houses allow you to wager as little, I think, as $50, and you can start with a bankroll of several $100s. So you can get in and do this if that's your inclination, for a rather small amount of money. In fact, I think Julie's starting an account, and I think the minimum was quite small. Anyway, so here again is the platform where the stop went off, and they sent me an email. That's the way I have this platform set up. Not all platforms will send you emails, but there certainly was, I don't want that one, hold on. There certainly was a message. Well, anyway, yeah, okay. Okay, so let me just leave it at that. Again, this screen has changed somewhat because of the way I had my computer failure, but there's another place I can link to where I can get the exact details of the buy and the sell, but we know what those were. So in terms of the platform, we've got that. I've shown you the plots. And now let's get into the feedback session. The wager wisely, get rich slowly. We had a loss here. I certainly don't feel bad about it. This is one. Overall, I am making money, and I just see this now as a learning experience. As a person who judged this, I think back and say, hey, I didn't really get to see everything. I did feel like I might have rushed things, but so sometimes stuff happens. And so that would be the kind of attitude which makes it easy for me to do when I wager wisely, because the money issue is just not a big deal here. And the short term is this particular trade, but I'm always looking for the long term, because knowing all I have to do is maintain my 65, 70% win rate, and money is going to accumulate at the level of wealth, and all the good feelings that I have about what I intend to do with it, etc. Okay, all of this, I just love Google. I didn't make this. I find these things, and I'm so happy to use them. All of this are powered by personal feedback. Okay? So this now is the feedback target for 732854. It's time now for you to get your transcripts out. And this is the time where you're going to learn something. Get your transcript out, look at it against that picture. You're using your communication channel, one, for memory. You will remember what happened when you did the transcript back there. But now's the time, and I recommend using a different color pen on the transcript, and I'd like you to do it this time. When you're by yourself doing this in the future, some people like to do this on another sheet of paper to preserve the transcript in its original format, and I understand that. But for this one, I would like you to go there with a different color pen or pencil or whatever and circle all the good stuff. Really feel good about that. You know, if it was marginal, perhaps before, now say, oh yeah, my sub really was trying to make a connection with that. This is the time you're trying to let your subconscious and your communication channel know what you're going to do next time. And next time, the information will be sent back even in a stronger fashion. The entanglement will be even stronger. So do your feedback sessions now. The writing is good. Be creative. Some people come up with amazing techniques on their own. I'm just flashing now on a woman who, during her remote viewing session, would mark up her blank sheet of paper with the design all around the outside. And she would now design, the first thing she would do is put that same design on a, can't remember if she did it on her feedback session or another piece of paper, but that would then say, okay, this is where I am now connecting up. Another thing to do is to say the coordinate out loud. Another thing to do is to mark up the coordinate. All of this to connect back up with the original remote viewing target as completely as you can. So you start doing something like that to begin to make the connection, and then mark up your transcript, look at all the good stuff, and then one other thing I recommend is add, using what I call your remote viewing senses, more. What do you wish you had done? For example, if you didn't get a sense of action, if you didn't get a sense maybe of the geometry of these people, you might not have gotten people, but there's a geometry effect there. The legs, if you didn't get round, ball, you know, the big picture stuff that you could just very quickly sketch for this, do that now. Add that to your transcript, to your feedback session. And then send them back and we'll talk about them. So let me see if I can make this small. Okay, so let me bring this one over here. And that'll make it small. And then I'll bring up the my email. Which I haven't even opened yet. I'll open it now. And then turn on your mics or go into the chat box. But okay. And let's talk feedback. Okay. Okay, that's car. As you see, I do several groups. Feedback for car. Yeah, someone asked me, how do I get into these groups and do this? Just email me, and in fact, I will forward it to Julie, so you might just email Julie directly and say I want in a financial group, I want in a sporting group, and she'll put you in. It's as simple as that. Okay, how we doing? You guys are finishing your feedback sessions? Let me make this half screen. And then we'll pick up. Okay. Who had the 5? Oh yeah, Sheila, I really would like to see your 5. And then I would like, some of the other, well, everybody else, to send in those, because then we can talk about them, which is the best way. But Sheila, please send yours in, because you obviously got a good hit. And some of the other people who we did not get the CRs for, if they happen to have good ones, please send those along as well.
Did you get the attachment from yesterday?
I'm sorry, say it again.
Did you get the attachment from yesterday?
Yeah, I did, but now you're going to do your feedback session with another coloring on it or whatever, and that's what I'd like to talk. Yeah, and that's the one I'd like to talk about, because you learn something about feedback sessions when we talk about it, and so will everybody else.
Okay.
Okay, so I've got yours, Julie. So let's take a look at yours. Let's go back down here. And we'll put you here. Okay, so what did you add here for your feedback? So did you have a miss or did you pass? What did you do? Just remind us.
I had a spectacular miss.
Okay.
You're not interested. Okay, so I gave myself a 5 for photosite A. You're not interested in, I'm assuming you're not interested in why I gave a 5 to photosite A?
No, let me tell you, I am interested for the following reason, okay?
Yeah.
The judging. Feedback is a time to review the judging. And when there are independent judges, the independent judges do a feedback session on their own, okay, to see if they did it properly. So I am interested from the perspective of whether you can learn anything from it. So yes, so why don't you tell us why you did it, and if you think you did it right. Sometimes, stuff happens. But first, let's go ahead and give us the reason.
Yeah, and this seems to be a huge displacement. Okay, so first off, when I was doing the meditation and bringing up images or thoughts, I kept going to a previous target that I had done months ago that I had a good hit on, and it was one with snow, and I'm like, gosh, I've got this target in my mind, you know, wondering, anyway, couldn't figure out why. And that's the reason for the I and the slick marked out as AOLs. Those were part of them. And then, okay, so the red, the ones that I believed were hits for photo site A was straight because of all the lines in it, wet because of the snow, cover because of the snow, man-made with the log cabin. The X's, I may have been reaching, but I was thinking that it was possibly a quick drawing of the fencing area, kind of like tilted sideways.
Okay.
And then the drawing of the mounds, I think I was thinking that that was kind of the way snow falls across, and then, you know, how it mounds over items. And then slick, oh, that's it. The AOL says slick.
Right.
I was kind of thinking, well, maybe I got that mixed up. So,
okay, Julie, let me comment now, okay?
Yes.
I understand exactly, I think, what happened here. And in retrospect, in hindsight, for whatever reason, when you keyed into that other picture, that was what you did here. I mean, that stayed with you.
Yes.
You didn't sort of get into maybe a deep enough state where you went blank and let new information come in. I don't know if it's in CRV terminology, they have something called door knobbing. I don't know if this is exactly the same thing. But once that image came into you, you couldn't get rid of it and open yourself up to getting other information.
Yes.
Right. I'm actually agreeing with you, but the fact that that happened, maybe next time, and this is part of the learning process, next time when you do get a flash on what in your mind is a remembering of an older picture, it's almost like an AOL, set it aside. You know, that's why you write those analytical stuff on the right side of the sheet, like you did here, is to set it aside because it was coming from the intellect. Well, this probably came from your intellect. It came from memory. So
Right.
try to set it aside, blank it out, and try to go to a blank place again during the cool down. So that would be my suggestion.
Yes.
Does that make
Thank
sense?
you.
Okay.
Yeah. I feel as though, okay, so I've been at this with you guys since January of this year. It's almost like a confidence thing where I'm kind of still in this mode of, is it, isn't it, blah, blah, blah. You know, I'm like flipping back and forth.
Absolutely, and that lasts as long as it lasts. Julie, you know what I mean? It's the kind of thing that you need to stay with and know that you're learning. I think you just learned something important here, and and that's the process, and it's a process.
Thank you.
Thank you. You know, I'm telling you, the fact you're willing to share this is just helps everybody.
Well, that's good.
Okay. Ron. Okay, so I see you circled. What did you give yourself on the, were you one of those that were high on A? Maybe I ought to put.
I got myself a 3.5 on A.
Okay, so you were marginal. Yeah, and I can see the house here. So thinking about that, you think you judged that properly?
Well, that's the only place that had a fence.
You know, the fact that it's higher than the other one is not, in my opinion, a relevant thing. The fact, though, that you had this, and what else did you have that would go with that one? As I say, it's always good to review if you thought the judging was reasonable. Where did you see, oh, this is the fence here. So you drew a fence. Well, okay. So, hey, maybe it was about right. Maybe next time when that's all the information you have, you make it a 3. Maybe not, but that's for you to contemplate. You have to understand we're in an area now where this is very subjective, very personal, and you're in the process of learning and setting up this communication channel. So 3.5 is right on the boundary there, and so, okay, that's what happened in this case. So now, let's see what you did with, yeah, there's some black, there's some brown, there's white, there's red. So you got the colors. I would say angular is in there. I mean, that's what I talk about. One of the things which comes up so often in photos are just the geometry. For some reason, the communication channel is very much into geometry. So I would have circled angular as well. Now, what's interesting about your little critters here, now, at judging time, you might very well feel what I'm about to say is stretching it. But now, I would say, oh, look, they're moving. Wouldn't you say they're moving? You've got these all set up to be moving. And I would actually say, oh, look at that. Maybe my subconscious was trying to get motion into this. I mean, the other one was stationary. And people that choose these try to make him different in some aspect or other. In this case, I would say it was the motion was one of the things which was different. The fact that there were people. Now, you didn't get people, but you got life forms. But life forms, we have to be careful with words, and that's one of the reasons it's good to be a self-judge. Does life form include a tree? Well, yeah, but you got animal level life forms, which are like people here. So I would say, oh, maybe my subconscious was trying to communicate that to me. Oh, you even have a person here. Look at this. And you have a person who is on wheels. Oh my gosh. Do you see what I'm saying here, Ron?
Yeah, I see it.
And that should be the way you should react. I'm looking at this now. And notice the fact you made it small is irrelevant. Size just somehow doesn't play out in the communication channel per se, though sometimes you get feelings so big. Everybody's a little different. But you've got a person, you've got them a wheel. Can't you see how the subconscious might have mixed up? In fact, this one picture here, I don't know what you gave this ranking, but notice this one picture has a person, motion, and around. I'd say actually your sub was trying to do a good job. Maybe on both. Maybe on both. You see?
Maybe what threw me was the fence.
Well, the soccer players are in an arena, so that could be a metaphor for an enclosed space with biological, people in it or animals.
Well, yeah.
Okay, so I would say, I don't know what you gave yourself on this one, but I see this one being at least as good as the other. And so, and it's good for us to talk about that. Sometimes you get a 3.5 and a 3.5, and then it's a pass. But, you could have, now that I've said all these things, I feel real good about this match. Don't you?
I do now.
Yeah. So
That's
do
why I
feel
said
good
3.4.
about that. Your communication channel was working just fine, thank you. And it was the judging. The judging is one of the hardest parts of this for so many reasons. And it starts with the target pairing. It's almost impossible to find a target pair where there isn't some overlap, where some people will say that was the stupidest targeted pair you have ever done, Marty, because there's one piece of it which is an overlap. I mean, there was a structure. Here there's structural stuff going on. Look at all the white here. Oh my God, I saw so much white, and of course I thought it was snow, and someone's going to tell me this is white. I'm just simply bringing that up because one of the things which I believe you can train your subconscious to do is to focus on those things which are different between the two targets as well. It knows both of them. We have seen so many times people who do are involved in independent judging, who never see a picture that they describe perfectly. How do they do that? Because they're connected to this universe of collective consciousness. And that information got put there by the judge. So they're effectively reading their independent judge's mind, as opposed to doing the tasking of the feedback. And I suspect you might have done a little bit of that here as well. But okay, so let's go on to the next one, right? There's so much to say about this whole field, and it's all connected, and so you just sort of get my gut reaction. Let's go to the next one.
Thank you for everything.
You're really very welcome. I'm just picking this up in the order that they come. So here's Heather. Okay. I like the color. Okay, Heather, tell us how first of all did you judge? Hi, how you doing, Heather? How did you judge?
Great.
What's
well,
that?
I gave myself a 0 on this, but then this is why this is so good to learn, because I'm brand new to
Right.
ARV. So my first image was the ball, even with the inner darkening.
Huh.
And then if I look back at the legs and the concrete barrier, that looks like that second highlighted area. And then I said turning in my kind of words. And then everything else seemed to kind of be off. But I gave myself a 0. I didn't see any of this.
At the time. And I look at your ball, and not only do I see a ball round, but you have like circles within the ball. It almost looks like you drew this quite well. And the subconscious will do that. Oh my gosh, I just love seeing this stuff happen because it is so, as I say, educational, not only to you, to everybody else. This is the way the subconscious works. And it's a little different for everybody, but I think you have, in fact, gotten that beautiful lesson. I mean, that was the first thing that came up, you said.
That was the very first thing.
Beautiful. And this, as you said, I mean, it could be the goal, it could be this. Who knows what your sub was taking, but that certainly should be there. This one too. And this is just what a soccer goal looks like. Have you ever seen soccer? The goal looks just like this. This is a soccer goal with the net. You know? Yeah, it's not perfectly square, but that's a soccer goal. And again, I believe angular. This is very angular. And I also believe man-made. I mean, the ball is man-made. There's all kinds of man-made stuff in here. I probably would have given that a 4. Maybe even, well, a 4, because usually I like to see maybe even a little more. But that was excellent.
Except I gave it a 0.
Well, that's why we're here, right?
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Wonderful. And I can see why you did bricks, you know, and you put it over here as an AOL, which is exactly right. And that's about the only thing which is not that good of a match. But the rest of this, you know, I see this as a goal looking at it, you know, now I'm looking at it the other way. I'm looking at it coming out, but before I was looking at this being the back of it. So interesting how the perspective changed. Anyway, this was a very good session, Heather. Thank you.
Thank you for your time doing all this.
You're very welcome. As you can see, I enjoy it too. So let's now go and get the next one. Okay. So yeah, I always have to, it's hard to remember that you use two names, right? This is Shelia. Am I getting that right? Shelia, is it
Yeah.
you? Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
I'm here.
Okay, so now, okay, tell us why you gave us a 5, and just because I think it's good for you to do it rather than me. But
Okay. So I got a circle.
Yep.
And then I had got writing. I don't know if the ball has spalding like basketball. I'm not familiar with soccer.
Mm-hmm.
I got bike tires, but that's like spokes. So I don't know if like the ball has those grooves in it.
Mm-hmm.
I did get a picture of the ground in a neighborhood where it was a driveway with green grass, and it was a white and yellow house. And so I got the white and yellow, I got the green grass, I got the circle, I got the ground. I did get a number, 3.8. I didn't know if that's a scoring, but I just put
that came
there.
into you? That came into you. Huh.
3.8 is up to the left.
Yeah, okay.
I got a cub baby bear. I don't know if that's on the guy with the white shirt. That's his emblem, some sort of animal.
Right here.
I got a hand.
Mm-hmm.
And I got the stone bell ring. I heard a ringing. I don't know if that was a referee whistle. I just put it as so. It was an old-fashioned bell.
You didn't circle that, though, and I think that's right. That would be pushing it a little bit, maybe, but it's okay to push it, even if you had circled that. Oh, but here you have hanging ball.
Yeah, and it goes back and forth.
And you
the
didn't
ball
circle.
goes back and forth.
Oh, okay. You circled the back and forth. Okay, that's good. That's good. Good.
And then there's a clock. And then I did ask the question, and it said no when I asked over, up, or down. I got a no. I was crossing it out, and then I put it back in.
Oh.
So
during your session, you internally ask yourself yes or no and make that part of it. Excellent. Okay. Everybody does this stuff differently, and keep watching how that works, but it certainly worked just right here. So that was great. And you can circle that. Oh yeah, look, this technique worked. That's great. Now, did you add this afterwards, these two, or are they on your original transcript, the ones at the bottom? At the bottom.
Oh no, I added them later. That's the new stuff.
And that's good. No, and that's good. That's really good. Now, when I do this, just so you know, because I am not a good drawer, I would have just put something much less detailed than that. And I'm not suggesting you do, because I'm not suggesting you do. I'm just saying for other people who might not be good drawing, with my remote viewing senses, you know, I would never get anything that detailed. I might get a sense of a person, and what I would put is like a stick figure, and hope I get action and motion with that stick figure. And I might get the angle here.
Right.
But that's my level. I tend to use more words and get just pieces of the thing. But see, I think that's what you were doing here. You see, I mean, this is really very good. And the fact that, interesting, you got hand, but you drew it down near the foot. I'm telling you. He said, no, and this is one of the things with the feedback that you get to learn is the little details turn out to have meaning. I mean, see what I just pointed out? The only reason I pointed that out is because I've seen it a million times. Stuff at judging time that you don't maybe quite get, you get now, and that'll teach you to be a better judge. In fact, the hand there was really an AOL, but what's going on here is clearly more to do with the feet, and that's where you drew it. Very interesting, very interesting. Let me see if I have any other comments about this one. Now, this was very good. Excellent, excellent, Celia. Thank you. Okay, let's do RK. No, we did you, Ron. I'm sorry. Oh, I must have missed you the last time. Okay, let's do Tanya.
Interesting.
Okay, Tanya, talk to me. Did you give a high score? You know, what were your CRs?
5 and 0.
You didn't do the CRs? You know what?
Yes, I said 5 and 0.
Oh, okay. On this one. Oops. That was what I wanted to avoid. Okay, let's just stick with this. I was trying to bring up Julie's Excel sheet, but why don't you guys just tell me what you did? Okay, so this was the original I see, and this is what you did for feedback. Okay.
Yeah, the feedback is in pink and the original is in blue, and I was driving, so I had to stop and write it out after I was done driving.
Hey, please don't ARV and drive.
I did my best view while driving, Marty.
Okay. Okay, very good. So, okay, so you gave yourself a 5. So let's do the judging first. Do you believe you judged it reasonably well? Why did you give this a 5?
I gave the other picture a 5.
Right. You said this was the original one here, but I see
Yeah.
feminine. I'm looking at your transcript, right, which is down here?
Correct, the blue.
Right. So why did you give it a 5? What did you see that was sort of unambiguous and strong?
I saw all the white setting, which then when I saw the photo was the snow to me. When I saw the house, that to me represents, it's symbolic of the feminine with the light on over the door.
I see.
So I had all this feminine energy all over my viewing. And so when I saw the feedback targets, the site A and site B, I didn't see anything feminine. And I have to admit, my judging is my worst enemy. I really don't know how to judge. But to me, my experience was super feminine. And my intention, which is interesting, I have been experimenting a lot with my intention as a viewer. So I set the intention to view the target in detail with the most lucrative, financially lucrative result.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And that was what I got, the other picture.
Okay, well, let me see if you did or not. Now, I heard what you said about your judging. It is very difficult and educational. It's almost like I now really do encourage people to do judging because it's another really important place you learn about your communication channel. In listening to you describe this and the feminine, it seemed to me that was coming from your intellect. In other words, your intellect was saying, hey, the white is feminine, the door, I got feminine figures, and so I really think that's the one. And you use words like that, think. And that connection for you when judging may not be the best approach, because I look at feminine figure while the feminine is not right, though I must say this guy's hand when I first saw it looked to me to be a little feminine. I'm just sharing. I do that. I'm just straight out and I'm sharing, what comes to me. But certainly there was a figure. Certainly there were people. Again, the tangerine and orange example I gave yesterday of what not to do in judging. So I certainly see that being with this one, and that may be, okay, you're explaining the judging part, and the white, there's plenty of white here, right? In fact, that would be a criticism of this pairing. Guardian angel, again, interestingly enough, is, I don't know, person-like, but not really. But I would say if, looking at it now, I would say, oh, maybe my sub was trying to tell me that there were people in here or animals or something close to that. And that would be the connection here, the way my sub was really working. And a movie studio, Annette Benning holding a torch, Statue of Liberty. Yeah, you see, you really got people.
So when I compare this experience with my last NFL experience, the game last night, my viewing of the Taylor Swift concert, I was there. I felt the bass of the music. I felt the crowd. I described the window pane. To me, it looked like a window pane, but it was white, some kind of frame thing behind her. So like when I compare that experience to this experience, I felt in this experience the white, it was like mystical, it was feminine, it was intuitive. So when I saw the house, I immediately thought, that's it. That's what I saw. I didn't see, like I sensed the emotional climate. So I didn't feel any competition. I didn't feel any exertion of energy like these guys would be feeling while they're playing. I'm like a feeler too.
Right.
So I was way off on this compared to how I felt with the Taylor Swift one.
Okay, well, it happens. I like the last one you talked about because notice that one was quite literal. And, you were there, and I guess the picture matched your being there.
Yeah.
So notice it was literal. So your subconscious may also be saying, maybe I'm trying to be a little bit more literal, but I certainly didn't get the feminine this time. And you might say that, hey, you are right now talking to your sub. Your sub is listening, and make that part of the intent during your feedback session. You're communicating to me now. You should be communicating with your sub at the same time. And say, sub, next time, it would have been nice if you gave me, a bit more of the masculine, so I could have connected these figures more with this action figure. And
Okay.
just
Thank you for that. I want to know from you, like, if my intention is to see the literal picture in detail, is that correct intention going in?
Absolutely.
And when I don't, like, so if you notice, my feedback here was purely symbolic. It was mystical, it was feminine, it was a house symbolizing the feminine in the snow with the white on the porch. Like, that's symbolic information to me. So if I don't receive any literal information, any literal sense of being in that photo like I intend to, what do I do as a viewer? Do I just say pass?
Good break.
I don't know, because when you do get, this is where you have to watch your own record. That's why we keep these records. The one where you were literal about the concert, I think you called it a concert.
Yeah.
Was that a hit? Do we have
Yes.
that? Okay. So keep track of the literal ones. If you're getting an 80%, hit rate on the literals, well, yeah, I would say you should then start using it. On the other hand, your sub um, may, the sub is like a separate entity, and you're building up this communication channel with it. I really think that's the proper viewpoint. So I'm not going to be the one to tell you, I know you're looking for advice. My advice is watch what your communication channel is giving you and get quiet and ask it that question. But also look at the data. There's a little bit of both going on. So that's the best answer I'm going to give you. I'm not going to tell you to try to stop doing this. You might say, hey, if you want to give me these kinds of information, make it a little easier for me to judge. Masculine figures would have been nice this time, that sort of thing.
Okay.
Right, Marty, can I comment on that, Marty?
Yeah, sure.
So since we're talking about feedback right now, now is the time to do, especially since, Tanya, you mentioned that you're feeling, place yourself, you could even do a short cool down before you do this, but place yourself inside of the photo. You're actually at that site with all the motion and the crowd and the activity going on, and then feel what the energy of that moment is like. The motion, what are the emotions of the people that are playing, the crowd. I noticed in your feedback write-up you kind of went over what you got, but if you were to look at this photo and write what you see for your feedback session, because you wrote a separate sheet of paper for feedback, you could say what color, green, white, red, motion, people, and action. Right now, what you're doing with the feedback target will have, oddly enough, it will have a huge impact on the viewing that you did yesterday. So if you really concentrate on this feedback session right now and just dive into it, you'll find that your RV sessions the previous day will become a lot better.
Okay, thank you. Let me add something to that, because he said it at the beginning and I didn't, and I want to emphasize it for you. Being a feeling person, one of the things you want to do on your feedback session is get in there and get into the feeling of it, just like he said, but actually do it and tell your communication channel, hey, this is the kind of feelings that I wish you would give me, like the activity. Gee, there's a lot of noise around. The feelings of this site that you wish the sub would have given you, in addition to the colors and all the other kinds of things that you could put down. Plus, okay, plus I just noticed something I didn't notice before. The Annette Benning, look what she's holding. A torch, Statue of Liberty, which reminded me of the Olympics. Which is a sporting event. So I don't know if in its own way it actually was trying to make a connection. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, let's go on to.
Thank you, John.
Oh, okay, we're done with this anyway, right? Right. Okay, is there anybody else that sort of want to comment on the specifics of the feedback of their session? Okay, so I hope you.
Hello?
Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
When I first started, I had got the wrong picture, and you talked about beacons, and so that's what I start my session with. It's like a flower, and I have the intention, and I put a little seed, so when I'll draw it on the feedback day. So the beacon helped me. I could just say that. That's enough.
Oh,
That's all.
thank you very much for that, and I'm going to talk about it again because I think that is such an important concept, and you got the 5 to sort of promote it even further, the idea of beacons. So I will do that again. Okay, so you've done this this is the time to learn about yourself, your own communication channel, your own precognition. You've got the truth in front of you. Now, okay, so this is what we've done. Guess what's coming up right now? This coordinate itself is a beacon. The thing that's most important about it is the idea of it being a beacon. And there are other kinds of beacons that you're familiar with, and you should use this coordinate itself in that fashion. For example, what about a telephone number? You probably have never thought of a telephone number as being a beacon, but it really is. It guides you to the person that you're interested in talking to. And telephone number is a beacon. Lighthouse, of course, is a beacon. I'm going to show you pictures of that. I think some of you may have already seen this, but what I want to emphasize is that when you write this coordinate down, deep in your gut, get that connection that this really is a beacon connecting the remote viewing and feedback sessions. It turns out that's its only function, really, is to connect these two sessions. And I always say it out loud. And it's not trying to memorize it or do anything like that. It emphasizes that as a beacon to me. I'm going to say it out loud at feedback time, knowing it's the same sound. I make a unique sound. The vibrations go through my body. The subconscious it's being reinforced that this is a beacon that I'm going to do at both sessions. Guess what? That's entanglement. I am increasing this thing I call entanglement energy with both the intention of making it a beacon and then taking action and doing it in the physical world. I mean, that's so important. When you do the writing, get into how it feels, how it moves. You know, a 732-854 with your handwriting is different than anybody else's. It's unique. Know that you're going to be doing that at feedback time. I like to do it several times. I even trace over it, and I'll do it at my feedback session. I'll trace over it. Why? Because that emphasizes my intention and expectation that this really is a beacon. Beacon power. There are all kinds of regular, what we call beacons, but in the RV world, you can use a candy kiss. You can open it during the RV session, knowing you're going to eat it during the feedback session. You can take a bite of it, half. You can use a cookie. You can do whatever you want. It's up to you. I also think it has value because it keeps it interesting. And it's not like you even want to use food every time. You might want to vary it to a touch, to a smell. You use physical objects. It goes on, and coming up with something that you do yourself is sort of part of it. I love Shelia's example of she used a flower this time. Sometimes she'll probably use something else. Okay, and then you're paying attention to all of this. Remember, the conscious moment, when you really think about it, that's our lives are a collection of all of our conscious moments. Okay, and paying attention to those is a very important part of this. So do that. Pay attention. Let me get rid of that. To your beacon, virtually to everything that you're doing. Another quote, attention is the rarest and purest form of generosity. And your consciousness is you. What you're choosing to pay attention to is being generous to that thing. Well, let's be generous with all aspects of our ARVing. You know, it shows that we value it. This was a paper put together by Joe McMonagle and Ed May. As I said, Joe is, in my opinion, the best public remote viewer in the world. Ed May is probably the scientist that's put more effort into the general, the general work that came out of the government remote viewing project, Stargate, and all of that sort of thing. And so they've worked together for many, many, many years, and this was their conclusion. What is clear, at least to those of us on our long-established team, is that intention, we talked about that, attention, which I'm just bringing up now, and expectation play a very important role in the success of both application and research of remote viewing. So in terms of the concepts, in terms of the kinds of things which your communication channel, right, at both ends, between the subconscious and your conscious mind, between the universe of collective conscious and the subconscious and the conscious mind. And the conscious mind only works in the moment, right? That's what your consciousness is right now. That's what you know right now. That all of those three pay attention to intention, attention, and expectation. Okay, so those are kind of the three that they said you ought to put near the top, if not at the top. And, you know, we've talked about other things, you know, which connect to those. Beacons, emotions, the other things which we've talked about, all sort of are connected. Confidence is another very, very important aspect of this. It's another word, but it fits in with all of these. Certainly your intention is to become more confident. Pay attention and emphasize those moments when you do feel confident, right? When you get a hit, for example, oh, you know what? I can really do this better and better. And when you have a miss and you're not as confident, you know what? You can pay attention to that, but then add the forward-moving, positive part to that, which is I'm going to be doing better in the future because I'm learning from all of this. Okay, now actions speak louder than words. You know, we talk about beacons, but when you do your sessions, are you viewing your coordinate as a beacon? Are you going over it? Are you doing with your actions those things which in fact you know will improve your ARVing? Because you do know, deep down you know. And then really get this feeling of confidence and enjoy this process. You know, if you're not enjoying it, you probably should do something else. And it's up to you to get that feeling of enjoyment, figure out how to do it. I mean, I just think that's as important as intention, attention, and expectation, frankly, because doing this for the long term, in my opinion, is the only way it makes sense. It's the way you get the most benefit from it. And you want to be on a journey that you enjoy, that you feel is enjoyment at kind of a deep level, because it's a long-term thing. So it's that kind of enjoyment. And so that comes with this confidence, I believe. And here's my little graphic. Go for extreme confidence, knowing that you're not perfect yet and may never be. And yet, that's okay. You know, one of those dogs may jump out at him and that cat will get out of the way. Yeah, I like that. I'm going to formally end this with this one. In many ways, this is underneath everything we're doing. You know, precognition is natural, as I think you all know. It's the way the universe works. It's part of what we do. I think you're getting precognition inputs all the time. It just doesn't always come up to the surface. And yet, look what you're learning. You're learning a healthy use of a capability that you have in terms of being able to bring it up to consciousness purposefully. And wealth is a lot more than money. Wealth is feeling good about how you're using the energy associated with money. Energy is just potential, money is just potential energy. And with all this, I really do believe there's deep wisdom, which I hope all of you are, on that path of getting wiser as you get healthier and wealthier. Okay, so with that, let me just ask questions, further comments. So no session, no feedback. I'm learning. This is great. Okay, thank you, Paul. Paul, are you in one of our app groups, either sports or financial? And that question sort of goes for any of you that are not and want to be. Simply email me or Julie. Okay, do you want to be in one? Julie, why don't you are you still here, Julie? Why don't you put your email address in the chat box?
Yes, I'm doing that right now.
Yeah, okay. So she's the one who I couldn't survive without Julie. So yeah, so send her that request and she'll put you in, and then you'll start getting the taskings via email. Okay, no more comments, questions. Okay, that's fine. Let's end this now. And all of you, I certainly wish you health, wealth, and wisdom, and keep precogging.